I just listened to a version of Wonderwall, sung while drunk, in 2015, by our friend Nicholas Stutsman. Look him up. Amazing musician, one of the best I know. Anyway, we used to play shows at this place in Grand Haven called the Pavilion, and it was a divey little bar. I don't think they saw themselves as a dive bar because they had food during the day and all that, but it felt like a dive bar, and they let us do whatever we wanted and make our own shows. And it was very similar to anyone from my old life in Chicago. It was very similar to Gallery Cabaret kind of vibes. It was like my new old life. Anyway, 2015. If you go on Nick Stutsman's SoundCloud, Nicholas Stutsman, and look up Drunken Wonderwall, it's a fun time. Good harmonies, some djembe, whole crowd singing, kind of hilarious. That's what I just listened to, so I'm in a good mood. Anyway, I'm in a recording studio again. Oh wait, why am I announcing these like the day before it didn't happen? Continuation. All things continue. Here we go. Okay. Put that down a second. So, just starting for the day, and it's already 11:30, and I gotta teach at 3 o'clock Central Time. Already getting stressed. But I have a lot of cancellations today, for better or for worse. You know, probably for better. Let's see if that'll stay. Not really an angle review of anything. I don't know. Not that I need to. I don't really need to be filming right now. I was just trying to like ground myself in myself. And I know that sounds crazy and maybe sometimes seems narcissistic, but I have spent the last 2 hours thinking of everyone except me. I have felt like a viewfinder. No, I've felt like a video camera pointed out at the world, and I have talked on the phone with people I love. That's been grounding. I have posted things and then looked at the reactions on Facebook, like memories all the way back to, well, there, I'll share that. It's not a big, great story, but just, you know, memories back to 2014, 2015 on Facebook to kind of ground myself in, like, where these songs are coming from, because these songs are old. Like, Be Comfortable is all about holding back. And I was trying to record it yesterday, but I don't relate to it anymore. But I did relate to it, and I guess I kind of still do relate to it. I'm just trying to get over it. And then, right after that, I'm going to be doing Return to the Sky, and that, oof. I just shared the picture of my parents and my boyfriend and I, Brian, who's also a musician. You can look at our band, Cloudlight. You can look at his old work. He's going to have some new work. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. But Brian and I kind of bringing our worlds together right around that time. I think Return to the Sky was written in March of 2016, and that's already 5 years ago. And when I think of this song, well, I guess it does feel old now, because I was living in this tiny apartment where Nick later lived. So our lives have all kind of circled around each other, and it's a beautiful thing. Nick even played with us in Cloudlight one time. It was right after Mac, our like auxiliary instrumentalist, he moved to Maine for the summer, and Nick came in, and it was the first time Cloudlight was going to open for Breathe Owl Breathe. I had opened for them at our house in the January before that, January of 2018. And then they were coming back through, and so had Cloudlight open for them, but then Mac was going to be gone, and we could have done it just me and Brian, but Brian wasn't really ever into that, just duo vibes. It's a thinner sound, which is fair, but I like it. I don't mind stripped down, because I'm used to just me, too. You know, I played 10 years of shows in Chicago and early Michigan, just solo as me. And I always tried to consider filling it out more, but that takes a lot of work, and it adds a lot of shifting sands to your life when you include other people in your work. Anyway, but Nick played with us for one show, and it was awesome. Except for how Nick was hard on himself when he sounded amazing. That was ridiculous. He'd like apologize right after playing something really gorgeous. It was like, stop it, Nick. Anyway, but it was fine. I don't care, Nick. But anyway, yeah. And then that was, why did I bring that up? I don't know. Return to the Sky. That was written March of 2015, right after. Okay, so I posted that picture today of my parents, me and Brian, all in the Mr. Kozak's Euro shop, right across the street from Oddside Ales. And they were there, and Brian was really bonding with them for the first time. They came for like a whole weekend. I was still at this apartment, tiny, tiny apartment at 19 North Ferry, and had quit my job and done an artist residency and written all these songs, like written New and Old and New again, wrote mostly Clouds and Light, like a day before a pavilion show, and all the anxiety of that, and just, that was in the end of 2015. But anyway, so then as, I don't know if this is interesting to anyone but me, but I'm just going to keep going because I don't want to second guess myself and my weird storytelling nature. At least right now when I'm trying to get grounded in myself before recording. Like, this is the whole point of making this video right now. Anyway, Return to the Sky. So then, you know, Brian had spent a whole weekend with me and my parents, and then after they left, I wanted to have time with just Brian, and then he's like, well, let's do it another night, because he had just spent, like, now me understands him. He was just like, well, we just spent 4 days essentially together while my parents were here, but I had felt so ungrounded, like, there was this part of me that had, like, fallen in love with not only the idea, it was something like I knew we were going to be together. And I don't know how to describe it, but watching him get close to my parents, it was just, I felt something shift. Like, it wasn't just, I'm in love with him and we'll see how it goes. It was like, oh, it was a big deal. And I felt really nervous and excited and anxious and just a lot of positive vibes even. And I had wanted to just hold him close to me and appreciate him and love on him. And I guess I had felt all this anxiety too. And so, you know, and it was like 4 months before we lived together, and, you know, that kind of softened some of my neediness, I guess you could say. But, like, there were some times in our early relationship where we only saw each other once a week because he worked a lot and I worked a lot. And I remember that being very hard for me because I'm very huggy and I'm very, I don't know. I'm very black and white. I think that's what I've learned about myself in the last few years, is that being with Brian has kind of taught me how to live in the gray. And historically, I've been good at being, like, single, like I'm gonna just be a writer and nobody else and block the world out, or I was good at being, like, all in something, a job, a relationship, a friendship, and these gray areas where you're feeling all this stuff and you're supposed to contain a lot of emotion and just give it to them later, or I don't even know. It was just like I couldn't. It's like the lyrics in Return to the Sky. Rain is shedding its skin. That was me crying a lot. Shedding its heart. It's so exposed. It's just like art. And it was raining that night or that day. And Rain is wearing no clothes. It's fully exposed, like all these holes in my soul. Like, I just felt so much. I didn't know what to do with all those feelings without having someone to just huggy glom it onto. And I didn't know how to feel that much while being alone. Like, I had always associated being alone with having lots of walls up. And, like, isolating and having thick walls up, like kind of FU vibes. And that's a trauma response, but still. And so I didn't know how to be alone, feel all this. I didn't YouTube back then. I wrote a ton of songs. I had a little handheld recorder that I was always making up songs for, but I didn't know how to just be in that apartment alone that night. I remember just feeling too much. And maybe this was written the next day, I was just feeling like crazy. And all I had at the time was like my 25 hours a week, maybe 30 hours a week of teaching. And for someone as intense as me with all of this in me and not having outlets for it yet, you know, quitting a job that demanded 10 hours a day from me sometimes, and 10 hours a day of piano playing and just a high level of performance, and then quitting that and just having all this free time, it made me almost go crazy, like in a lot of ways. I would have, I mean, I took a road trip out to New York City. I just was like, yeah, it was too much. So moving in with Brian then a few months after this song was written kind of grounded me. But then that came with all kinds of complications because he had a very big world and he had his own ways of interacting with people and his own ways of not having boundaries or not having, well, he just had his own relationships and his own world that our worlds just did not fit together easily. We had to like really work at it. Our relationship is the product of a lot of work and figuring out what each other needs and honoring it and finding ways to be flexible and adaptable for each other. But anyway, and then there's this part about rain is letting you in, it's under my skin like diamonds in the sun. And I'm the one you choose to use this life with this time around. I mean, that's a little bit of a nod to the possibility of past lives or future lives. But like when I really felt hard for him, like I almost feel like somebody, whether or not you believe in past or future lives, like I almost feel like somebody who had never made a decision before. I don't know how to describe that. I'm sure it describes itself. Like I really feel like in the last couple of years especially, the last few years, but really strongly in the last year and a half or so, like everything in me chose him. Anyway, so this song is kind of about that moment. Maybe I'll practice it. I'll practice it before I record. Here we go. No, I shouldn't do that because then what if I get a really good take? Also, I don't feel like singing it. Rain. Nope. Rain is shedding its skin. My voice has been off, and I don't think I can sing these songs right now. I don't know if I got sick or if it's a lot of trauma from COVID, just feeling overwhelmed with everything, but my voice keeps blocking back up. And I don't know. And some of these songs are like really hard to sing both emotionally and physically. And they just I haven't been able to place them right in my body. So I'm trying to just lay the piano tracks for now, for this week. Anyway, that's my story. I'll probably lay some scratch vocals though later. I've been laying scratch vocals. It's good enough, whatever. For now. Okay. Process. You can be in process. There's no hurry. Sometimes I think the reason I'm always hurrying is because I always have new things I want to be working on, and it's very hard to work on things that come from your past. It's hard to work on these songs that are from 2015 and 2016. It just is. It's hard to be in such a sad headspace. That was a hard time in my life, early dating. And that sounds depressing, but I have to remember, like, it's nothing against me and Brian. It's just I had had a really, really painful divorce and only ever had bad relationships. No offense to all the past people I dated, but sorry, not good. Either people who were straight up abusive or people who just like shut me down and shut my ideas down and like made fun of me. One guy I dated was like, you just like coffee shops because you think they make you cool, and you just like saying that you like the rain because you think that's what artists say. Just like really shitty, snotty BS. And that was two different people who said things like that. Like, are you kidding? No, I did and do like rain. It makes me feel very alive. And that's another thing this song is about. So okay, I feel like I'm just dumping all my worst vibes all over YouTube, so I'm going to start recording now. Bye.